Hi, in this video we'll be continuing with the C# video tutorials. So in this video we'll be doing a long lab for, well, it's not that long, but it's a lab that's on passing arrays as arguments. So we'll need a list box and a button, so I'm going to try to do this. It's not going to look great, but we'll just try it, because to make it look great we'll need a layout. We'll do that later on. But we have, so we're just going to have a list box and a button. So if we want that, we'll just instantiate those objects in. So we'll need two object reference variables here. So here we'll have, we'll have a list box. So we'll just say list box. Actually we're going to call this, we'll call it output list box. So output list box, like that. Sorry, always forget the private. I'm used to Java too much here. So private, even C actually. The C or Java I'm used to the most. So not C#, but so here we have private. So we'll have private list box. We'll call this output list box. So private list box, output list box, and you'll have private button. We'll just call it OK button or Go button. The private button, Go button, so we'll have it just like that, two object reference variables. And the constructor here will say output list box points to new list box, and we'll have Go button points to new button. Then here we'll have output list box dot name points to output list box as a string. We'll have Go button points to, Go button dot name points to the string Go button. Then here we'll, what else can we do? We'll have to create a point. We'll have to, so button. We could change the size, we could change the text. Actually, let's add some text. So let's go, let me separate these. I'll kind of just have them mixed up here. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter. So we'll just go back here to here, and we'll say that we want, for example, our button to have a text. So let's go with Go button. Sorry, I just hit the mic a second ago. Apologize about that. So we'll have here Go button. So Go button dot text points to Go button dot text points to Go. Just like that, as a string. And here we'll say Go button dot auto size points to true. We could go with a font to make it bigger. It doesn't really matter, so we'll just kind of skip that. We'll just do a few here. What else we have? So our Go button's going to need a click event, so here we'll go button dot click plus equals new event handler. Pass in Go button underscore click. That needs a semicolon, then down. So we'll move that constructor square or curly bracket up. And here we'll say private void Go button underscore click. Pass in object sender and event args e as a parameter. throw two parameters. So we'll just have to do another thing here. So we'll have to add both of these to the form itself. So we'll have to go. So first we need a point. We'll say go button dot. Let's just go with the list box first. So output listbox dot location points to new point. We'll pass in here, I don't know, we'll just go like 200 by 200. And then here we'll have go button dot location points to new point. Try to go underneath like 250, comma 250. What's wrong with that? Okay, that's fine. Then we'll say controls. You do this in a loop? We don't. I guess it's only two. I have a feeling we could add the controls through a loop, but we don't really need to. Actually, I'm not sure exactly if that would work. There probably is a way to do it, but then we'll just have to just type them out. So we'll just go controls.add here, then add. We'll add the output list box. You just add them with commas and go button. Not sure if that will work. No, you can only add one at a time, so we'll controls.add output list box. That should be fine. And then we'll go underneath and say again controls.add go button. It was worth a try to see if you could add them separately, but I guess you can. So we have here, that should be everything. So let me just check that. So now we have, let me just run that and see if at least it's coming up. Okay, so our button is on top, or the list box is on top of the button. So let me go with this to like 50 by 50. Let me try going with this and see if that'll work. Because Y goes up and down, right? So let's try that. The Y-axis. Think of a graph or something. So that's how it works. Okay, there we go. So we have, it's not obviously perfect. The size is too small, but it's better. So at this point it works. So we'll close it. Then we'll go to the actual event handler, which is, there's a lot of code here. Well, it's not that much, but it's not tons, but it's a little bit of a chunk of code. So we'll have here, we'll instantiate a int array. So a local int array in go button underscore click. So we'll say int array numbers points to just like some numbers. Then here we'll say output listbox dot items dot add. So we can add a string here, the arrays starting contents, or you could say elements, whatever. So output listbox dot items dot add, then a string to the list box. Then here we'll have a for each loop, so we'll say for each. We'll say, because it's an int array, we'll have to have an int pointer variable, so int number in numbers in the numbers array. We'll say output list box dot items dot add number. Output list box dot items dot add number. What's happening here? So we're saying, okay, we're going to reference our list box dot items property dot add method and add the, we want to add the number pointer, or it's not a pointer, it's basically, I forget what, there's a special name for it. You can just think of it as like a variable that just like iterates. So it's gonna it's technically gonna point to the numbers array. So it's gonna add the first index, which will be index 0. So it's gonna point to the value, which is 1. So it'll take items, it'll add that to the items in the list box, then it'll go to the bottom of the loop back up, check the condition. It'll say for each int number in numbers. In this case, number is going to iterate to the next index, so it's going to add 1, and then now number is going to point to the value 2. Then it's going to go back down to the block. Then it's going to say, okay, well, I'm going to reference the listbox.itemsProperty.add method and add the value, which is 2. Go back to the bottom of the loop, then loop back up, check the condition, make sure it's still in the range. So number is going to now add 1 to itself to move to the next index to the right. And then it's going to say, so for each int number, which is going to point to 3 now in the numbers array. Then it's going to go to the block of code. It's going to check the list box. It's going to access the items property, then the add method, then add the value 3 to the list box. Okay, so we'll go to the next part. So we'll pass the array to the set0 method. So it's going to call set0 here. So let's just go down here for a sec to create that method. So we'll go down here, start a new method. We'll say private void set to 0. We'll just call it set to 0. So it's going to set the data to 0, each index. So here we'll say int, we'll pass in an int array. We'll just call it I array. So we'll say for int index points to 0, index is less than I array.length. Index plus plus. And here we'll say I array of array index points to 0. So it's going to set each index to the value 0, and that's it. So this method takes an array as a parameter, references that array in the loop, loops from 0 to its length, where its length is the number of elements minus 1. So in this case, the number of elements is 3, so it's going to iterate. So if n equals 3, so it's going to iterate to 0 to n minus 1, where if n is 3, then it's going to iterate from 0 to 2, 3 times 0, 1, 2, that's 3 times. So then after, we'll call that method that we just created back up in the event handler. So here we'll say set to 0. We'll pass in the numbers array. Then below here, we'll say output list box dot. So we'll say output list. We'll reference our list box. Output list box by calling it dot items property dot add. We'll add an empty string here, I think. Then here we'll say output list box again dot items dot add. And here we'll add we'll add the string after calling set to 0. we'll say for each again, another for each loop. For each, we'll say int number in the array numbers. So didn't we already do this? Oh, okay, sorry. So it's going to set them to 0, then add them back to the list box again. So here we'll say output list box dot items dot add. I'm just going to add in number now, because number is going to point to the array elements again. So here we called set to 0, so it's going to set all the array elements to 0 after the array elements are 1, 2, 3. So then here it adds like this is like a new line, I guess. You could also do that. That might add 2 new lines. So you could add a /n to add like an extra new line. So here we have output list box dot items dot add. So it's going to have the string after calling set to 0, kind of like a header in the list box. And here we'll have for each int number in numbers. So number will point to the numbers array. So numbers is just like a variable. We could have just called this val or whatever. So it's going to point to the numbers array starting at index 0 to n minus 1, where n is the number of elements. So then it's going to iterate once again. Basically it's just going to print 3 zeros going from up to down in the list box. And forgot a semicolon there. I think actually that's it. So I can just make sure that works, so I'll just run it. Alright, so it worked. So it has like the message, the array starting. I think some of the words got cut off because we could just make that size a little bigger. That's okay. But it's saying, it says everything. So it has the array starting length, or the array's starting elements, prints the elements, then a space, and then after calling set to 0, and then 3 zeros going down. So that's pretty much it. So thanks for watching, guys. If you guys liked the video, you can like and subscribe to support the channel for more programming and investing tutorials. In the next video, we'll be going over, we'll do a little bit with the ref and out keywords. We'll do another lab on that. So thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll see you guys there. Take care.